My wife cheated on me with her coworker, then tried to take our house.
I used to think that betrayal was something you only saw in movies, dramatic, distant, exaggerated for effect. Then it happened to me, quietly, in the place I thought was safest, my home. My wife, Laura, and I had been married for 8 years. We met in college. She studied accounting. I was in architecture. We clicked instantly. She was calm, methodical, the kind of person who color-coded her planner, while I was the one who forgot deadlines but could stay up all night designing something from scratch. We balanced each other out, or at least that's what I thought. The first cracks started showing a few years ago when she joined a new firm. She loved the job, and I loved seeing her excited again. She'd talk about her projects, her coworkers, her amazing boss. I didn't mind at first, until one name started coming up too often. Evan. At first it was harmless. Evan said this. Evan's hilarious. Evan helped me with the presentation. You know how it goes. But slowly, that name started slipping into every conversation. She'd laugh at her phone during dinner, saying, "It's just Evan being dumb again." I told myself it was friendship. After all, adults can have friends. But then she started staying late at work. At first, once or twice a week, then almost every night. Quarter-end reporting, she'd say, or we're finalizing a client deal. She'd come home exhausted, sometimes after midnight, smelling faintly of perfume and wine. I asked once, lightly, "Does Evan stay late too?" She froze for half a second, just long enough for me to notice, then smiled. "Sometimes. Why?" That was when the quiet anxiety began. I didn't want to become that paranoid husband, the one who checks phones and stalks social media. I trusted her. We had a mortgage together, a life, a routine. I kept telling myself, people work late, that it was my insecurity talking. But trust dies slowly, not in a moment, but in pieces. One night, I was cleaning up after dinner when her phone buzzed on the counter. She was in the shower. The screen lit up. Evan. Can't stop thinking about last night. My chest went cold. I wanted to believe it was a joke. I wanted to believe I was misreading it. My hand hovered over the phone, trembling. I opened the message thread. There it was. Weeks of conversations, full of inside jokes, flirty comments, heart emojis. Nothing too explicit, but intimate in a way that left no doubt. Then a message from 2 nights ago. "You looked incredible at dinner. I wish we didn't have to sneak around." Sneak around. My first instinct wasn't rage. It was disbelief. I felt detached, like I was watching someone else's life fall apart. I closed the chat before she came out of the shower, sat down on the couch, and stared at the wall for half an hour. When she came out, wrapped in a towel, smiling faintly, I could barely look at her. "You okay?" she asked. "Yeah," I said automatically, "just tired." That night, I didn't sleep. I lay there, next to her, listening to her slow breathing, thinking about how someone can share a bed with you and still belong to someone else. Over the next week, I watched her carefully. She smiled more at her phone, dressed better for work, hummed while getting ready. She was glowing, not for me, but for him. I tried to confront her once, casually mentioning I'd seen a text from Evan. She laughed it off, said, "You're reading too much into it." So I decided to wait, to gather proof. I started noticing small details. A second toothbrush in her car, perfume I didn't buy, receipts from restaurants across town. Once, she said she was at a late meeting, but her location tag on a photo she accidentally posted showed a hotel bar. That was enough. I took a day off work, told her I had a site visit out of town. Instead, I parked near her office and waited. At 6:45 p.m., I saw her walk out, phone pressed to her ear, laughing. Evan was right behind her. They walked to his car. She looked around once, then kissed him. Not a quick peck, a real kiss. Something inside me broke cleanly, like glass under pressure. I didn't confront her that night. I drove home, sat in the driveway, and just stared at the house we'd built together. Every brick, every plant, every photo inside was a lie now. When she finally came home around midnight, I found her sitting in the living room. "Hey," she said, startled. "I thought you were out of town." "I was," I said. "How was your dinner?" She froze. "What?" "I saw you, Laura." Her face went pale. For a second, she didn't say anything, then she tried to recover. "You're following me now? That's insane. Don't." I said, my voice cracked. "Just don't lie anymore." We stood there in silence for a long time. Then she whispered, "I didn't mean for it to happen." That's what people always say. I told her to pack a bag and leave. She cried, begged, said it was a mistake. I didn't yell. I didn't throw anything. I just said, "You chose him." She moved in with a friend temporarily. A week later, I got served with divorce papers. And that's when I realized she didn't just want out of the marriage. She wanted the house, too.
The divorce papers arrived in a thick envelope, printed in neat legal language that somehow managed to sound both polite and cruel. She wanted an equitable distribution of marital assets, which was lawyer speak for half of everything, including the house. The same house I'd built with my own hands, working extra shifts, pouring weekends into the renovation while she went on work trips. I called her that night. "You really think you deserve half the house?" I asked. She sighed like she was tired of me. "It's community property, Daniel. That's how the law works. My lawyer said, I don't care what your lawyer said. You cheated. You walked out." Her tone went cold. "I made mistakes, yes, but that doesn't erase the years we spent together. The court won't care about your feelings, Daniel. It'll look at what's fair." I wanted to scream, but I just hung up. Over the next few weeks, my life became a blur of legal meetings, sleepless nights, and quiet rage. Her attorney, some slick, smiling guy named Porter, sent letters full of veiled threats. "If you refuse to negotiate, we'll pursue discovery of financial misconduct." It was all intimidation. I hadn't done anything wrong, but they were trying to wear me down. Meanwhile, Laura acted like the victim. She posted carefully curated updates online, pictures of herself finding peace, quotes about healing and moving on. Not a word about Evan, not a hint that she'd destroyed our marriage. One night, my friend Jason came over with a six-pack. He'd known us both since college. "Man, I saw her the other day. She was with that guy, not even trying to hide it." I nodded, too numb to react. "She's saying you're unstable," he continued quietly, "that you snapped after the breakup. Be careful, Dan. She's building a case." That hit harder than anything. She wasn't just trying to take the house. She was trying to paint me as dangerous. I realized she and her lawyer were playing a long game. If she could convince a judge I was volatile, she could get the house and maybe even alimony. I started documenting everything. Texts, emails, dates. I bought a small voice recorder and kept it in my pocket during every conversation with her. I thought it was paranoia at first, but I needed protection. Then came the mediation. We sat across from each other at a long table, a legal referee between us. Laura looked polished, professional, perfectly calm. I must have looked wrecked. I hadn't slept in 2 nights. Her lawyer spoke first. Our client seeks a fair resolution, equal division of property and assets, and consideration for her emotional distress following a volatile separation. I almost laughed. Emotional distress? She caused it. When it was my turn, I said, "She committed adultery. I have proof." Porter smiled. "Adultery isn't relevant to property division in this state. Let's focus on financials." I looked at Laura. "You really want to do this?" Her eyes flickered, but she said nothing. It was clear the system didn't care about morality, just paperwork and percentages. Still, I wasn't going to hand her my home. After the session, as we were walking out, she stopped me in the hallway. "Why are you making this harder than it has to be?" I turned to her. "Because it's my house. Because you lied. Because you're trying to destroy me and pretend it's justice?" Her expression didn't change. "I earned that house too." "You earned nothing," I said, my voice shaking. "You threw it away." She just stared at me, then walked off without another word. A few days later, I got an email from her lawyer requesting further documentation of my finances. I knew what they were doing, fishing for something they could twist. So I gave them everything: pay stubs, bank records, mortgage receipts. I wanted to prove transparency. That's when things got worse. One morning, I woke up to find the front door slightly open. I knew I'd locked it the night before. Nothing looked stolen, but my desk drawer, the one where I kept receipts, old photos, and my external drive, was rummaged through. I checked the security cameras I'd installed after she moved out. The feed for that night was blank, corrupted. The others were fine, only that one. Someone had been in the house. I called the police, but without evidence, they couldn't do much. "Could be a power glitch," the officer said. "You sure you forgot to lock the door?" I hadn't. 2 days later, my lawyer called. "We need to talk. Lars' attorney just submitted evidence claiming you've been hiding money." "What?" "They have bank transfers to an account under your name in another city." "That's not mine." "I know, but they're going to argue you falsified income to reduce her settlement." I felt sick. She'd planted it, or someone had. I went through my files, searching for anything that could prove I hadn't opened that account. My tax returns, pay stubs, bank records, mortgage receipts, everything matched. But the bank statement they attached to the filing looked authentic. My name, my address, even my signature. I called Laura, furious. "You're forging documents now?" She didn't deny it. "You brought this on yourself, Daniel. You could have just settled." I stared at the phone, speechless. That's when I realized she wasn't the same person I'd married. Whatever part of her that had once loved me was gone. All that was left was calculation and the will to win. But she underestimated me, because if she wanted war, she was about to get one.
The next few weeks were chaos. My lawyer and I worked nonstop, trying to prove the forged documents were fake. We managed to get metadata from the digital copies, timestamps, IP addresses. They traced back to an unknown device, not mine. That gave us a lifeline, but Laura's side was relentless. Every day there was another email, another claim, another accusation. She wanted me exhausted, scared, desperate to settle. And for a while, it worked. I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face the night I caught her lying. Calm, rehearsed, unbothered. The person I'd trusted most had turned into someone who would burn my entire life down to win a piece of property. One evening, I was going through old folders when I found an old shared drive we used to keep our renovation photos in. I hadn't touched it in months. I opened it and froze. There were new files, recent ones, documents I'd never seen before, uploaded under her email address, screenshots of text messages, edited photos, and what looked like chat logs between me and another woman, except the woman didn't exist. The timestamps were fake, the conversations fabricated. It was all designed to make it look like I'd been having an affair too. She was building a narrative. I printed everything and brought it to my lawyer. He whistled softly. "She's not just after money. She's trying to destroy your credibility. If this gets to court without context, a judge might think you're both to blame, and that gives her leverage. So what do we do? We fight dirt with truth, he said. But we need more than denial. We need something that proves she's manipulating evidence. I nodded slowly. There was one person who might help. Her coworker, Evan, the man she'd risked everything for. I found his social media easily. Private, but his profile picture showed him on vacation somewhere tropical. I sent him a message. We need to talk. It's about Laura. He didn't respond for days. When he finally did, it was short. Leave me out of this. That told me everything. If he was innocent, he'd have said so. If he was guilty, silence was safer. I pushed once more. I have proof. But when this goes to court, you'll be subpoenaed. Your choice whether you cooperate now or later. That got his attention. We met at a small cafe outside the city. He looked nervous, constantly checking the door. You shouldn't have contacted me. Then why show up? He hesitated, then sighed. Because she's losing it. She told me she'd handle things. I didn't know what that meant until I saw what she's doing to you. So you admit you were with her? He rubbed his face. Yeah, I'm not proud of it. It started at work, got out of control, but when she found out I wasn't leaving my girlfriend, she snapped. Started talking about how she'd make you pay, how she deserved the house after everything you put her through. I didn't understand it at the time. Do you have proof? Messages? Emails? He nodded slowly. I deleted most of it, but I might still have the company logs. She used her work email for everything. Can you get them? He looked terrified. If I do, she'll know it was me. Then make sure she doesn't find out until it's too late. He hesitated, then said quietly, She's not the same, man. Be careful. She said she'd rather ruin everything than lose. He left soon after, and I wasn't sure if I'd ever hear from him again. But 2 nights later, I got an anonymous email with an attachment. Dozens of messages between Laura and her lawyer, strategizing how to fabricate evidence, how to push the emotional abuse narrative, how to make him crack on the stand. I sat there reading, shaking with disbelief. She wasn't just cheating or lying, she was orchestrating a full psychological war. I sent everything to my lawyer immediately. This changes everything, he said. If we can prove these messages are authentic, we can countersue for fraud. But before we could act, things escalated. I came home one night to find 2 police cars outside my house. My heart sank. An officer approached me. Mr. Dawson? Yes. You're under investigation following a domestic complaint filed by your wife, Laura Dawson. My stomach dropped. What complaint? She claims you threatened her life during mediation last week. That's a lie. I haven't seen her since then. Then I suggest you get a lawyer to prove it. The officer handed me a restraining order. She'd done it. She'd found a way to weaponize the system. For the next few days, I wasn't allowed near the house or to contact her. I stayed with Jason, trying to keep my head above water while my lawyer worked on filing a response. The forged documents, the fake texts, the false accusations, it was all unraveling, but painfully slow. Then one morning I got a message from an unknown number. You should have signed the papers, Daniel. Now you'll lose everything. No signature, but I didn't need one. I knew that tone. It was her. And I realized something chilling. This wasn't just about property anymore. Laura didn't want half of the house. She wanted to bury me under it. I didn't eat or sleep for 2 days after that message. It was like living inside a slow-motion collapse. Every part of my life that used to feel stable, work, friends, my own name, was being stripped away piece by piece, and she was behind all of it. My lawyer told me to keep calm, to trust the process. But how do you stay calm when someone is painting you as a violent man, a liar, a fraud, all while trying to take your home? The house sat there empty now, sealed by court order until the restraining hearing. I drove past it once at night, just parked across the street and stared at it. The curtains still drawn, the porch light still flickering the way I'd meant to fix weeks ago. I could almost see us inside, laughing, cooking, planning vacations, ghosts in a place that no longer belonged to me. Then, finally, A break came. My lawyer called early in the morning. Evan sent more, full email chains, including attachments showing her lawyer's edits on those fake documents. My heart nearly stopped. "Are they verifiable?" I asked. "Absolutely. And there's something else. The firm's IT logs show her downloading them from her work account. It's airtight, Daniel." I felt something I hadn't in months. Control. We prepared everything for court. When the day came, I walked into that courtroom with trembling hands but steady eyes. Laura sat across from me, polished, perfect, like she'd rehearsed the role of innocent victim. Her lawyer started his speech, talking about emotional trauma, fear, and stability. I watched her nod at every line like she believed it herself. Then it was my turn. My lawyer laid everything out, the forged statements, the fabricated chats, the metadata showing her laptop as the source, and finally, the emails from Evan, where she and Porter discussed pushing Daniel over the edge and keeping him too paranoid to think straight. The judge's face changed immediately. Laura stopped breathing for a moment. Porter tried to argue it was all contextually misleading, that maybe someone hacked her account, but the IT verification killed that instantly. I could feel years of anger tightening inside me. I'd imagined this moment so many times, her lies collapsing under their own weight, and yet I didn't feel triumphant, just tired. When it was over, the judge dismissed her claims of abuse and financial misconduct. She'd perjured herself in court, and that wasn't going to disappear. The order on the house was lifted. I could finally go home. That night, I stood in the doorway of the living room, staring at the quiet space that had once felt like ours. Everything was still in place, but nothing felt the same. Her perfume lingered faintly on the curtains. The bed felt too big. I'd won the case, but I hadn't really won. She'd taken something I couldn't get back, the sense of safety, of trust. Then, 3 days later, she called. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. Her voice was calm, too calm. "I hope you're happy," she said. "You ruined me." "You did that yourself." "You think this is over?" she said softly. "You think people will forget what you did to me? They won't. They never do. Laura, you lied. You cheated. You tried to destroy me." She said, "I just wanted what was fair," and hung up. I thought that was the end of it, but the next morning my car's windshield was shattered. A brick on the ground, no note, no witnesses. I didn't call the police. What was the point? There'd be no proof. That night, I moved my valuables into a safety deposit box and installed cameras around the house. Every sound outside made me flinch. I was living like prey even after the predator had lost. Weeks passed. The news of the court ruling reached her firm. Evan confirmed she'd been fired after internal review proved she used company resources to falsify documents. I heard she moved in with her sister, then later left town. I should have felt relieved, but mostly I just felt empty. One evening, I sat in the kitchen, staring at the half-finished renovation plans we'd drawn together years ago. She'd written little notes in the margins, ideas for a garden, a bigger window, a future. Now all of it was meaningless scribble. I poured a drink, walked out to the backyard, and sat on the steps as the sun went down. That's when I realized something I hadn't before. I didn't hate her. I pitied her. Because everything she'd done, the lies, the greed, the cruelty, it wasn't just about the house or the marriage, it was about control. She couldn't stand losing, even if winning meant destroying both of us. But I survived. I had my home, my name, my proof. And that was enough.